Hello, I'm Charlotte Cohen and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Thursday the 11th of December. And we've got a big night of European action to look forward to.
James Tavernier sends the keeper the wrong way and gives Rangers the lead on the stroke of half-time. From 12 yards out, it is Rangers 1, Braga 0.
Rangers travel to Hungary to face Robbie Keane's Ferencvaros, while Aberdeen face a tricky task, but they've found form of late.
1-0 Aberdeen, and Kevin Nisbet's 14-game goal drought is over, and that is a massive goal for him and a massive goal for Aberdeen.
Can the Dons strike at Pittodrie against Strasbourg? And Celtic host Italian giants Roma in a big test for new boss Wilfried Nancy.
At the end of the day, this is part of the job. I control what I can control to be good with my players, with my club, with the people that I work with, to maximise our chance to win games by having good performance.
We'll get you fully briefed on all three big matches.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
And alongside me this morning, former Hearts and Dundee United manager Robbie Neilson. Robbie, good morning, how are you?
Morning, Charlotte. Fantastic, thanks.
Good stuff. And alongside him, Stephen McGowan, Herald football writer at large. Stephen, good morning. How are you doing?
Morning, Charlotte. All good. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. I actually, my first ever sports journalism work experience was at the Herald. So there you go.
And you survived. You came through.
Yes, I did. And I stuck with it despite everything. Thank you. But we've got plenty to get into this morning. Let's start off in Budapest with Rangers' visit to Ferencvaros. They had a confidence-boosting win in their last game against Kilmarnock. Robbie, how do you think they'll be feeling going into this massive game?
I think obviously confidence is up within the group getting the result against Kilmarnock recently. I don't think the performance was fantastic, but I think tonight will be a tough game, in a tough environment. Obviously European games are hard, but the way the Rangers are at the moment, I think they're 33rd in the group. It's going to be very, very difficult to qualify from that in the latter stages. So I think that, this is a game that they can go and almost, just go and try and get some more positivity and then focus back on the next couple of games, which is, I think, Hibs at home and Hearts away, which is probably their priority now.
Well, they've managed to kind of start scoring a few more goals. Bojan Majowski, 2 at the weekend. The first time, I think, since December 2023, he's managed 2 goals in a game. So they've got him hopefully finding a bit of form. Stephen, do you think he's going to be the answer in attack for Rangers in an area where, as we say, they've struggled this season?
I don't know if he could be the answer exactly. I think it's going to be really tough for Rangers. They're actually looking to avoid losing 5 away games in Europe in a row for the first time since 1986. So yeah, it's been quite a grim run, and it's going to be really hard. Ferencvaros, I think they are pretty much where they want to be in the Europa League. They're in a really healthy position, in 6th position, and I think one more win will pretty much guarantee them that playoff place that they want. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really hard away game for Rangers. But Danny Rose has steadied it a bit, domestically certainly. 6 games, but this will be the biggest test yet. And I think defensively there's still big question marks at this level for Rangers.
As you say, they've been getting the results domestically, but I suppose Danny Rose needs to find a way to replicate that on the European stage. We've seen Rangers in the past be so good at doing that. Maybe they've been struggling in the league and then they go into Europe and Thursday nights at Ibrox and all of a sudden everything's rosy again. So Robbie, I'll go to you. How do you see Danny Rose being able to, I suppose, bring those European results alongside the domestic ones?
I think that the biggest thing is going to be the defensive aspect. I think that's probably where Rangers have struggled, both domestically and in league form this year, losing too many goals. And the difficulty you have is when you step up a level, when you get into the European competition, you get punished. And you look at, I actually went to watch Ferencvaros when they played against Genk when they were over here. They won 1-0 away from home. Really solid, experienced team with a couple of really good strikers. You get guy Varga up front, I think the top goal scorer for them this season, 10, 12 goals, and you give these guys one chance, they will score goals. And that for me is the key for Rangers, getting into these European games. Can they solidify the defence a bit more and make it a bit more difficult to score against?
And Stephen, as you mentioned, Ferencvaros have been particularly impressive in Europe, more so away from home rather than at home. Do you think that'll maybe give Rangers a wee sniff of hope?
Well, I don't think they've been that bad at home either, to be honest, Charlotte. I mean, Rangers are 33rd out of 36 teams. Ferencvaros are 6th. I think one more win will pretty much put them in the last 16. So they've got every incentive to do it. Of course, they've got this kind of the side story of Robbie Keane being in charge, of course, former Celtic striker, who was linked to the Celtic job before Wilfred Nancy got it. So there's all kind of wee intriguing subplots, but I think it's going to be a difficult night for Scottish clubs in Europe, and I think Rangers will find themselves right in the eye of the storm, to be honest with you.
You mentioned Robbie Keane just there, actually. I mean, he seems to be really impressing as a manager over there.
I think he'll be looking at some point to get back to the UK, probably back to England more than anything, but absolutely, yeah. I mean, he was mentioned for the Celtic job. I don't know how far that went. I think he was certainly been keen on the job. So he's got a personal kind of agenda here to try and prove to teams over here that, maybe he's due a crack back in the UK. So, I think it's going to be a long night for Rangers.
Aberdeen are facing a tough match in the Conference League against French side Strasbourg, but they have found a little bit of form of late, although mostly kind of defensively speaking, they've been a lot more solid at the back. Do you think, Robbie, they're solid enough to keep out a team like Strasbourg?
Yeah, I think the change in the system is credit to Jimmy Tillene. He was playing a 4 at the back, it just wasn't working. And he kind of persevered and then moved to the 3/5 at the back. And it's made a huge difference to them, just solidifying it. But again, as Stephen said, I think tonight's going to be a difficult one for Scottish football. When you look at Strasbourg, I think maybe about a month ago, 2 months ago, they were top of the league with PSG in France. Liam Rossignol has done a fantastic job there. They're backed by the Chelsea ownership, I think, so they're a top team, real top team, and I think that they beat Crystal Palace recently, which shows the level they're at. So again, I think Aberdeen have solidified. They're undefeated in 8, but I think tonight will be a real tough game. If they can come through this with a point, I think they've done very, very well.
Well, yeah, Stephen, do you think that for Aberdeen now, its performance is kind of more important than the results, so that their kind of domestic side of things doesn't take a knock in that respect?
Yeah, I think Jimmy Tillene's really steadied the ship. As Robbie said, he's gone to 3 at the back, and that's made a real difference. I mean, he was in a really difficult place, Jimmy Tillene. I think it's easy to forget that. I think there was, the night they lost to Motherwell, I think things began to turn and improve a little bit, and he's really begun to steady the ship. What he's begun to do now is score goals as well. Scored 3 in the last 2 games, which they hadn't really been doing. But I mean, this is a formidable game. Strasbourg got a second in Europa Conference League, one of the favourites to win it. That said, I think they've only won 1 of the last 5 league games, so they've slightly slipped up. But yeah, I mean, as Robbie says, their supporters certainly are slightly reluctant junior partners to Chelsea. I think that's been one of the fascinating test case of multi-club ownership scenarios, because it's brought benefits, as we see, in terms of their status in the Europa Conference League, but it's not necessarily been the happiest of marriages so far as supporters are concerned. But I think if they beat Aberdeen tonight, then they'll be in a really, really good position. Aberdeen, I think, realistically would have to win every game from now on. I just don't know how realistic that is.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Strasbourg kind of struggling domestically. I think 3 defeats in a row, struggled to break down a low block. Do you maybe think that's Aberdeen's best hope for trying to get something out of this game?
Probably every Scottish team's best hope of getting something out of these games, to be honest with you. Jimmy Tillene's shown he can be pragmatic. I mean, in fact, the Scottish Cup final, which got him so much credit, proved that beyond all doubt. So it will need one of these back-to-the-wall type performances to take a point tonight, I suspect.
And I suppose, Robbie, they were impressive against Dundee in the league last time out. First time they kind of seem to have clicked both in attack and defence. That's got to give them a bit of a boost going into tonight's game.
Yeah, I actually think the Aberdeen squad is a very good squad, and I think they recruited well towards the end of the window in the attacking departments. And I think they brought in Nisbet, Armstrong. Both of these guys hadn't really had a pre-season, so when you bring guys in like that, it takes them 6, 8, 10 weeks to get up to speed. And I think, obviously, they're now probably hitting top level fitness-wise, those two, and top players and top attackers, but also having that solidity at the back where you feel confident as an attacker that you don't have to score 3 goals every week to win the game because your defence is going to keep the ball out of the net. So I think that combination of the solidity at the back and then the attacking players starting to find their fitness and their form has really helped them. And I expect them, they're in the top 6 now, and I expect them to push on from there.
It's funny, Robbie, actually, that's one of these situations, isn't it, where you get new signings coming in and people perceive it to be a really good window. And it starts off a bit slow, but it just takes a bit of time sometimes for new players to settle in, doesn't it? You can see that at Aberdeen.
Yeah, it does. It's not just, and I think players that they get towards the end of the window generally haven't been involved in the team they're with, as in that they've not been playing games, potentially not even training with the group because they're looking to move them out. So they've maybe missed 2 or 3 weeks of pre-season, they've not had any game time. So although bringing guys in right at the end of the window can give the group a lift, actual fitness-wise for them can be difficult because it takes 2 or 3 months to get them ready. And I think we're seeing that with Aberdeen.
And you both kind of mentioned about Strasbourg being where they are in the Conference League, have been backed well by the ownership. It just, Robbie, looks like such a daunting test on paper, doesn't it?
It is, but they're at Pittodrie, they're on a good run of form. I think, in all honesty, this is a free hit for Aberdeen. I think they can go and, they've seen in recent European games where they've actually performed very well. And they've come out, although not picking up 3 points, with a lot of credit. And I think they can do that tonight. And look, we all know when Pittodrie's rocking and the team's doing well, it's a difficult place for anyone to go. So I think if Aberdeen on top of their game, Strasbourg will obviously have to be off theirs a little bit, but they have got a chance like any team has.
How much confidence does that give you? If you're a team like Aberdeen, you're starting to pick up a bit of form in the league, to go up against a really strong opponent and put in a really solid performance?
I think it gives you massive confidence, to be honest with you, but you have to go and do it. That's the hard bit. It's all right after it. It's starting the game well, getting the fans behind you. And I think like Strasbourg play 3-4-3, Aberdeen will play potentially similar, 5-4-1-ish. So it might be quite a stuffy game, kind of negating each other out, and it'll probably come down to individual quality, which Strasbourg have. So it's whether they can stop these 1v1s and errors that will dictate whether Aberdeen get a performance out of it.
And just off the pitch, Aberdeen, Stephen, are meeting the council about a new stadium on Friday. Do you see anything coming from that?
It's such a saga, isn't it? I mean, I honestly think you could be talking something like 20 odd years have been talking about Aberdeen trying to get a new stadium sorted. First in the outskirts of town, a couple of times at 2 different venues, of course, and now, of course, they're trying to get this multi-purpose arena close to Pittodrie. I would really like something like that to happen. I think it'd be a crying shame for Aberdeen as a city if they left the city centre. I think it'd be good if they were located in the same area. I mean, Dave Cormack and Alan Burrows have argued the case that it would bring multiple benefits to the city: jobs, income, investment. I think there's just this question about public money potentially contributing towards a football club's well-being. I think that's a sensitive area, particularly when local councils and public finances are in such a kind of fraught state. But I know that Dave Cormack and Alan Burrows are going to be speaking to Aberdeen Council on Friday, and they're hopeful of a breakthrough. There was a change of regime at Aberdeen Council, I think, which kind of destroyed some of their momentum. But I hope they can get something sorted, because it would be good not only for Aberdeen but for Scottish football if they could, get a stadium which would be a revenue generator apart from anything else. So fingers crossed for them.
Finally, we spoke about Celtic in depth in yesterday's podcast, but let's just have a wee quick look at their match with Roma tonight. A very stiff test, but they maybe don't score a lot. Do you think, Robbie, that should give Celtic a wee bit of hope?
Again, it's going to be a very tough match, and I think they don't score a lot, Roma, but they've got Debaya, they've got Evan Ferguson, they've got El Shawari, they've got Spill, so they've got a phenomenal attacking force. So it's that's going. I think Aberdeen have got the hardest task. I think after that it's Celtic against Roma, because I think they're a top Italian team, very, very experienced manager. It'll be a tough one for Wilfred Nancy, and full eyes be on tonight for them, or will they be looking at the League Cup final, at the weekend? So it'll be interesting to see the team selection, because look, every game at Celtic is a big game, especially in Europe, but it's going to be a tough one. Will he be looking at maybe one or two guys maybe for the weekend? Will probably remain issue tonight.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose before Nancy came in, this Roma game was potentially looking like one they probably weren't going to get a result out of. But do you think there's maybe a bit of pressure on Nancy after the Hearts game to show that he can, maybe get a result?
He's just in the door. We're talking about pressure. It's welcome to Scottish football, Wilfred. So I think these games are very tough. I think you're expected to win every single game when you're a Celtic manager or head coach, which you probably understands already. I think tonight's going to be very difficult. I think the fans just expect a performance, and a positive performance, to try and take the game to Roma and try and win the game. But it's going to be tough.
Stephen, there was a lot made of the performance against Hearts. I suppose the first kind of 20 minutes or so, they actually looked pretty good. There was a lot made of Nancy's approach to the game. We won't go into the tactics board because that's been talked about to death over the last couple of days. But do you see the Celtic manager changing anything in his approach for this game, or do you expect it to be quite similar to how he approached Hearts?
I think this is one of the burning questions about Wilfred Nancy, is about flexibility, about willingness to adapt and change. Because I think he's one of these modern coaches who has a philosophy, who has an idea, who has a formation, and he sticks with it and he goes with it. I think it surprised people when he came in after 2 training sessions, basically, 48 hours, and he did change the system so much against Hearts, going to 3 at the back. When I don't think he did a great deal of time to work on it in the training ground, and I think that's generally the case at the moment with the games coming thick and fast. To take the phrase Robbie used earlier, I think it is a bit of a free hit tonight, because I don't think people expect much. I think the real pressure will be against St Mirren on Sunday, because I know that Stephen Robinson's been studying the Columbus Crew formations, shape, the way they play, and he's a really shrewd tactician, Stephen Robinson. And I think whereas people thought that Celtic would probably be favourites going into this final on Sunday, and they still will be, I think it's a lot of pressure in that game now. Because, I mean, how long ago it seems since that Feyenoord game, doesn't it? I mean, you look back to, we went over to Rotterdam, Martin O'Neill put in a really good performance, got a strong 3 points, sitting at 7 points in the Europa League, and now you've got a new coach who's come in. They've lost that game to Hearts. There's a lot of questions being asked. Yeah, it just shows, as Robbie says, that there's always pressure at Celtic, and people don't really mind so much about your processing, your performances. You just have to win. That's the bottom line at the Old Firm.
Yeah, well, one of the things Celtic have struggled with is finding a consistent striker. We saw Maeda at the weekend miss that golden opportunity early on, but Robbie, who do you think he'll go with up front in this game?
It's a difficult one, Charlotte, to be honest with you. I think he will stick with the same system, because obviously he's come in and within 3 days he's played it, even though it 3 left-footed centre-halves playing in a back three, which is always pretty difficult to work. I think he'll go back with Maeda and try and just get some sort of consistency within the team. Mm-hmm. Again, like having 3 games in a week in a cup final coming up, you don't have a lot of time on the grass to actually work with the players. So do you chop and change the personnel, or do you chop and change the formation to suit the personnel? It seems to be that he's come in and he's about the formation. So it's now getting the players used to the formation and playing within that. To do that, you don't really want to be taking players in and taking players out too much, because it's the new guy has to come in, or the new player coming in has to get used to it. So I would expect, a similar lineup to the game against Hearts, maybe 1 or 2 coming out with a view to the weekend. The cup final might be maybe McGregor coming out. Can he do the 3 games in a week when we've got such a big one at the weekend? So potentially 1 or 2 changes, but much the same.
Robbie, I'm going to put you in the spot here. Right, so you come into a new job as manager, and you've been in 48 hours. Would you go from 4 at the back to 3 at the back after a couple of training sessions as a football person?
No, I wouldn't, to be honest with you, Stephen. I think that you come in and you look at the squad, you look at the games coming up, and you get a formation that's comfortable with the players. But I think, like, see, when you look at the bigger picture, like, it's a big transition to come from the MLS to come to a team like Celtic. In the MLS, the objective at the start of the season is to get into the playoffs. That's what it is. And I think over there, it's the top 8 in each conference. So you get 16 teams getting the playoffs. So you have time to build a formation and build a team. You can lose 3-4 games on the bounce. Nobody really bothers as long as you make that top 8. Ideally you get to the top ones where you get the home draws. But when you come to Celtic, you've got to find a way to win. I thought it was interesting that Martin Hill spoke. It's all about winning. That's what it is. I think that transition will be very difficult for Wilfred Nancy because he's been used to, more of a process rather than just the outcome.
Well, just before we finish up, I'll get both of your predictions for the three games tonight. Robbie, I'll go to you first. Your predictions for the 3 matches this evening.
A difficult one. I think Rangers have got the best chance. I think Rangers, I'm going to go a draw for Rangers, maybe a 1-1. I think Celtic will be a bit difficult one. I'm going to say a Roma win in that one. And then Aberdeen, I'd like to see them take a point from it. I think it'll be difficult, but I think I can see a Strasbourg one in that one as well.
Stephen, what about you?
I'm finding it difficult to see anything other than defeats, to be honest with you. So Roma winning at Ibrox and reasonably second gear, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be enormously surprised if we did something similar at Celtic Park. Ferencvaros, they've got that incentive of going to the last 16. I think they will be a tough nut to crack at home. In Strasbourg, I think we'll just have too much quality for Aberdeen. So I fear it will be another bruising night for the coefficient of Scottish club football, but I live in hope that not for the first time I'll be wrong.
Loving the optimism, Stephen.
Oh, well, listen, I'm a glass half empty guy. Make no mistake about it. That's the way it is.
Well, that's all we've got time for. Many thanks to Robbie and Stephen, and thank you very much for listening. Remember, we are here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch you again very soon.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.